Hey everyone, today I'm going to be giving you an issue in modern day agriculture, food production versus climate change. So, what is climate change and what does it have to do with agriculture? According to NASA, climate change can be described as the ongoing rise of the average temperature of the Earth's climate system, and it has been demonstrated by direct temperature measurements and other measurements of various effects of the warming. So, what does it have to do with ag and our food? Well, according to a professor at Cornell, it will have to do a lot with the weather patterns and the pH balance of the soil. So here's some information on how climate change will affect our food production. As I mentioned in the last slide, climate change will affect how we farm for future generations, but it will also have an impact in our immediate lifestyle today. According to Record, 2018 was a very hot year for Georgia. On average, Atlanta experienced its fifth hottest year to date, and Macon experienced its eighth. If we're comparing these temperatures to 30 years ago to 1988, we jump up on average 2 degrees. In effect, we can start to see what this will do to the soil. Soil by nature is what people call calm in the middle of 60-degree weather. Since climate change affects temperature, it starts off killing the micronutrients in the soil, which is a huge part of how plants get their nutrients. This is a slide on how soil works. In a perfect universe, this is how we would like to envision our soil: 25% water, 5% organic material, meaning nutrients that plants need to survive, minerals, aka dirt, and about 25% air. Now, this isn't what you and I breathe, it is about 75% carbon dioxide. With the earth heating up, it causes too much heat on the organic material, so it ends up killing what's inside that ends up becoming minerals. So this adds another 5% to the total, making 50% minerals. As the earth heats up even more, the water will start to evaporate, leaving no moisture in the ground that plants need. This will either rise above the soil or it will become a gas within the soil, making oxygen, which is pretty good for plants, right? Well, plants actually take in carbon dioxide. Like we humans take in oxygen, so this becomes a problem. So, based on the model I provided, we're left with about 75% dirt and trapped gas within the dirt's plant that cannot be used. In return, we're left with plants that are not able to take root and ultimately die, not only because of the increased temperature forced into the plant, but also because the soil isn't suitable for life. So it would be similar to like life on Mars, which there is no life on Mars. So how does it affect the food we produce? When we think of different plants we produce, especially in the state of Georgia, like corn, onions, and peanuts, we should consider how climate change will affect the agricultural industry. When we think of these food items listed below, we don't think about the plant, but rather what the plant produces. Corn is not of the plant, but rather what the plant produces. Peanuts are also what the plant produces as a means of reproduction. So, switching gears, I'm going to talk about a huge economic benefactor that comes from Georgia's agricultural sector: peanuts. I'm going to give you a little biology lesson on how peanuts are formed, and then talk about how this deals with soil and ultimately climate change. Okay, so when peanut seedlings are planted into the ground, it takes about 4 to 5 days to them to germinate, which means it takes this long until a little green plant pops out of the seed. Then, about 45 days later, a little yellow flower begins to appear, waiting to be pollinated. After pollination, these flowers begin sprouting stems that dig into the ground, where the pH is right to produce the peanuts we think about today. After about 180 days later, we are ready to dig them up to harvest. Well, this creates a problem for peanuts. When the soil loses its pH balance due to the minerals being depleted and the water being evaporated from the soil more quickly than usual, it makes it hard to produce any sort of peanut from the pollinated flowers. So here's some factual information put into perspective. Graduate students like Nath Chaliz and Ramna Gamir from the University of Georgia published some information and statistics about the ongoing battle between climate change and the peanut crisis down in South Georgia. As models suggest, the amount of rainfall of the last century has been changing directly, affecting the soil. They argue not only does this confuse a plant, but it affects the pH of the soil and causes diseases that affect the crop's yield, ultimately affecting how much we produce, and how much farmers get paid, and how much money it generates to the Georgia economy. In summary, this is an ongoing battle between peanuts and climate change that will affect generations to come and the Georgia economy. In 2018, it was estimated that peanuts alone generated about 18% of Georgia's agricultural economy. To Georgia's agricultural economy. This could be a huge impact of farmers and the economy if we do not raise awareness about it soon. But it's not just Georgia. Let's be clear here. It isn't just Georgia that's going to lose out. Other states have also been seeing things happening to their crops. In Idaho, less potatoes are being produced as more diseases take over. Until recently, farmers just thought it was pests until they dug into the roots and discovered mold, which means more rain. In Texas, onions are being produced at a record low rate. 2017 was its hardest year for onion production to date. Not only did the increase in heat kill the actual plant, but the pH of the soil was almost off the whole point. If things like this get worse, and by definition, we're just starting to feel the effects of climate change, our agricultural industry will plummet and there will be food shortages everywhere. It's already estimated that in 2017, Texas farmers lost about $500 million in the loss of onion production. But what can we do to stop the climate change and protect our crops? According to NASA, there really is no way to stop climate change, and it could be a natural phenomenon. But there are ways that we can decrease our carbon footprint. First, we can stop overproducing meat. Livestock produce over 32% of our carbon footprint. And what's depressing, about 18% of all meat goes completely unused and has to be disposed of. Another thing farmers have done that seems to be working out, but definitely not a permanent solution, is overplanting what they think they will produce for the following year. Although this is only temporary and in the future will not work with the increasing temperatures. However the case, climate change is inevitable and will cause detrimental damage to us, our plants, and our planet. That is why we have researchers working around the clock to discover and come up with new alternatives to live a greener lifestyle. Before ending this presentation, though, I want to discuss and share with you alternatives that brilliant scientists and researchers have come up with in the agricultural industry. In Japan, technologists have had a breakthrough in the agricultural industry by raising plants without any kind of soil. Appearing on an episode of the Netflix's Bill Nye Saves the World, these researchers have actually found a way to have plants without any kind of soil, and about 99% of the water that they do use gets absorbed by the plants. The other 1% gets turned into artificial rain. So this is really sustainable and really healthy for the environment. In fact, these plants see no sun throughout their lifetime, but instead see blue light, which produces an even more healthier plant. Not only are these plants being produced greener, but they're being produced organically, which is healthier for everyone. Below is a link to watch it. Now switching gears, I wanted to show you how the University of Georgia is finding solutions to different types of farming. The University of Georgia College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences are leading the industry in the plant breeding and genetics field. In fact, going back to peanuts, one distinguished professor is finding a way to make a peanut more resilient to its environment and different microbials. She argues we need to produce food in a more sustainable manner, which means we have to increase the amount of food we produce per amount of land. She says it has to be sustainable environmentally and economically. To learn more about her, here's also a link to her and her work at the University of Georgia. Thank you for allowing me to present.